guys, welcome to the show today. So today we have a very big guest. She's a friend and she's a very smart lady. Today we are going to be discussing about women making waves in the tech industry in Nigeria. She would like to share her journey because I feel that her journey will help inspire any young lady or young girl out there who is trying to, break through into tech or come into tech. Video will inspire. So welcoming in is Francisca Eze. She is a software developer and she has been in the industry for 4 years now, and she is really pulling weight in it. Francisca, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Hi, guys. Hi, Juliet. It's been a while. Hello.
Yeah.
Nice
Thanks
to
for
be here.
joining us in the show today. So I kind of went through your LinkedIn page and I've seen you've worked with a lot of companies, and I've also seen your experience in the industry. Viewers that don't really follow your story, or people who would like to see how it all started, if you can start from BSc and how you ventured into tech, that would be helpful.
Okay, all right. My tech journey has not been a very straightforward one. And I didn't really start out with the thought that I had to go into tech. There are just different factors, including unemployment, that contributed to that. So I had a BSc in plant science and biotechnology, and did the National Youth Service Corps for every Nigeria, and then came back to my state, and then I started working at a particular firm, right? But then at that point, while working with that company, I felt I had no use. Like, I could be replaced within a day or so with probably a machine that could do what I was already doing, probably booking meetings and one or two things. I could be replaced at any time. And I felt I was not giving everything that I had. I felt I could give more. So I think the whole tech thing started with when I had to ask my boss at that moment, like, where is this world going to? Like, what direction is the world steering towards? And he told me data science. And I was like, okay, what's data science? And he said I should go look it up. So I went to Google, did a lot of searching, and eventually found out what data science is and what it entailed. And then I started reading a couple of things, but I kind of guess it wasn't really my thing, because I kind of had issues with community, with understanding what was really, really going on. And then somehow, during the whole process of trying to become a data scientist, I knew you had to learn how to code. So I started teaching myself how to code.
You're trying to say that all through your years in the university, you never came to mind?
All through my university, in fact, I never knew there was a field like that. I never knew there was a field like programming. I just knew that people worked with computers, basically MS Word, MS Excel, PowerPoint, and whatever. I had basically no idea of coding. But then I'm a very curious and inquisitive person, so I had to dig deep when my boss told me about it.
So when you look at this, I'm trying to divert a bit. Can you say that most graduates or most people in the university don't really know what tech is, what tech is doing in the world now and how it's helping life? Or do you think it's still the same thing as of the time you were in the university? And this was what year?
Okay. So I was in the university for from 2010 to 2014. So to answer your question, I would say in our part of the world, in Nigeria, right, a lot of people still don't know anything about the field of tech. Like, I could say for some particular places like Lagos and Abuja, which are a little bit of exposed, if I would say, they might have one or two ideas. But when you go to remote areas, when you go to villages, when you go to the eastern part or to the core north, they basically have no idea of what programming or coding is. They are just basically in school to get a degree, become a teacher, become a doctor, which are still doctor, accountants, and lawyers, like all those professions that have big names, but a lot of people have no idea what programming or coding is in our part of the world.
Oh, wow. Okay, so moving back, you mentioned you did a course on Coursera. Was the course free or do you have to pay for the course?
Yeah, so the course was actually free because for someone like me then that didn't really have any money to pay for anything, I was definitely scouting for free courses,
Yeah.
right? So I was aimed for anything that was basically free. So the course was 100% free. I think if you need a certificate, you might have to pay. But if you want to audit that course freely, I think it's available for everyone. You can go check it out. So I think Fundamentals of Programming or something is a course, and they kind of give you the basics and fundamental, but using Python this time around because Python is really, really easy for beginners.
Okay. So is this to say that there are free courses out there that people can actually, try on and, on their own learn how to code?
Yeah, like there are so many, like lots and lots of free courses, in as much as there are paid ones that you have to pay like some amount of money, pay some token to like get access to them. There are thousands of free courses. Like we have when you go to YouTube, like these days you can learn anything from YouTube. When you go to YouTube and like type a question, how can I learn how to code or something? You see 1,001 options of how you can start. Aside YouTube, you have many other places like Coursera, just as I mentioned. We have Khan Academy, we have Free Code Camp, we have Coursera, Udemy. I think lots and lots of platforms. Like you can always ask online, you can always ask on Twitter, on Instagram, like how can I learn how to code? And there are lots of people out there. That's one thing about the coding community. There are so many people out there willing to help, willing to give free information. So you can actually learn how to code freely, like on your own. Oh, okay. Moving back to my story. So my journey learning how to code is like a two parts kind of thing. I started on my own. I kind of got the fundamentals on my own, like understood what an if else statement is, understood the basics of loop, like got a little bit of the fundamentals on my own. But then there were some issues that I faced. Some were personal, some had to do with infrastructure, some had to do with access to some basic needs and necessities. So because of that, there was an opportunity to go into a coding bootcamp, and I took the opportunity and kind of fast-tracked my journey. So I started on my own and eventually had to fast-track it with a coding boot camp,
Okay.
which I attended for like 6 months. Yeah.
Okay. So now, with your journey now, how long can you say it took you to learn, beyond the entry level role for a junior developer from the day you started till the day you got your first gig? How many months approximately can you say it took you to get to that stage?
Okay. I would say the coding boot camp was about 6 months. I started learning like 5, 6 months before that. And that should be like a year, right? In as much as after the coding boot camp, I didn't really get a job immediately because COVID came and everything was like really messed up. But I'll say like within a period of 12 months, 12 plus months, I was able to get my first job.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, nice. So going through your LinkedIn page, I saw that you are more into Java, which is more leaning to the back end. And there is this saying that back end is harder than the front end. Can you describe yourself as a full stack developer, a back end developer, or a front end developer?
Okay. So when I spoke about the coding bootcamp, right? We have like different stacks where they like different stacks where they train people. So I was trained with Java. I wanted to do backend. And saying that a particular stack like backend is more difficult than front end, I'll definitely tell you that's not true. Everything has its own level of difficulty in its own way. For me, I wouldn't say that front end is actually more difficult than back end because I tried front end for a while and I was really struggling. For me, back end it's like a whole lot easier. But then in the job market, sometimes the jobs that you have or the project you have to do or the company where you're placed, they might have certain demands, right? And they might not have the like enough manpower to meet up with that particular demand. So I started with backend, but at a particular time, the company I was working with, we had something to do on the front end, and like we did not really have people to work on the front end at that point. So I had to force myself to pick up what I needed to pick up in React and front end, HTML, CSS basic. In as much as I knew like a little bit of HTML and CSS, and I was struggling with it, I had to like pick up the necessary things at that particular point and then carry out the tasks. So I most times see myself as a back-end engineer. But then when front-end issues come up, or when I see a full stack role, I can really perform okay there. But if I'm giving a preference, or if I have to choose for myself, I definitely would tend towards the back end, because I have my personal like reasoning that front end is not just very easy. So because of that, I always tend towards back end. So I consider myself a back end, not really full stack, back end engineer. Or if you want to call me a full stack, I'll say I'm like back end heavy and then front end light. So like a 70-30% kind of thing, or 65-35% kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So now that you're in coding proper and is so different from what you did in the university, is this something you enjoy, or do you still have that, that's insatiable, do you still feel you need to do something different, or do you think that coding has actually filled all the hunger in you, and this is where you will settle, and this is what you love doing?
Okay. I'm going to answer that. And let me see. Okay, what I can say right now is when I was done with university, I was actually looking for a challenge, like a purpose, something to give my all, something to channel my energy towards, something that was going to stress me, right? Because I felt I had a lot to give. So getting into a field that it's kind of like struggling. This day you're the victor, you're winning, you're very proud of yourself. And then 2 days later, you're really asking yourself, are you sure this field is meant for you? So I've not gotten to that point yet where I would say, okay, I've seen enough of what coding entails. I've seen a lot of what, like everything about what programming entails. Like I'm still delving deeper, still finding out myself, still seeing things that I don't know about, like still pushing myself beyond my limits, beyond my comfort zone. So for now, right, in as much as people make like 5 years plan, 10 years plan and stuff like that. For now, I don't have any plan of like going to a different field. I'm still okay here. I'm still like coding that's kind of giving me that purpose which I was searching for. So right now, I'm fine with the field. I'm still going further. I'm still going deeper. I'm still learning more. I'm happy. So
Oh,
I
nice.
guess for now, okay with the field.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Francisca coming from the university without
Mm.
any idea of what software development is or coding. And she started her journey trying to learn on her own, and then later joined the bootcamp. And now she is, she has worked for different companies and she's very comfortable in this career. So my next question would be, you are in Nigeria right now. Do you think that software development is heavily dominated by males or female, or do you think that is well balanced, or do you think is something more, ladies or young girls should look into doing? What do you think?
Okay, so I think there are two questions embedded in that. If women or should look into doing it, and if I feel it's a field dominated by men. I think one of the problems of software engineering all over the world is that it's a male-dominated field, given that it's not very easy, like 100% easy to do. And then it requires a lot of your time, like so much of your time, right? So aside from other parts of the world, in Nigeria, we're also facing the same problem. It's also like heavily dominated by men. When I was in the coding bootcamp, we were like 33 altogether that did that particular cohort. And out of the 33, 29 were men. And then we had just 4 ladies. And that's like the same problem they keep facing. There's always like a higher proportion of men willing to like go into this field, willing to face the issue. And then women are just probably not ready to like devote their time, or most times when they find out it's really difficult, they kind of try to shrink back. So I just feel that answering your second question now, I feel that more women, more ladies in Nigeria should try to like go into tech, at least to find a balance, like where we have men 50%, women should also be taking up useful the other part of the 50%, right? Like it shouldn't be a male dominated field. Like if I can do it, I'm not a very smart person. I don't consider myself as super smart, but if I can do it, I believe every other person, like every other female can do it. And really out there, it doesn't really matter if you're a girl or a boy. They're just really concerned, can you get the job done? And if you can, that's it. So more women should be encouraged to go into the tech space. Yeah.
And do you think there are many job opportunities? Because what people are looking at is something they can do. And, since there are no jobs in Nigeria and get a job, do you think it's something that, maybe if you give it 1 year of your time or some months of your time, you can, be able to get something that will be paying off your bills?
Okay. So I wouldn't say give it some months of your time or 1 year of your time. People's learning abilities differ, right? While some might take 6 months to like fully grasp some concepts, some people might need 1 year or 2 years. So it doesn't really matter about the time you give to it, right? Okay, yeah, there are 1,001 job opportunities in the tech space. Like so many jobs keep coming up. If you're in Nigeria, there are lots and lots of jobs available for you to do in Nigeria. And if you don't want to do Nigerian jobs, probably in your own country, you can find jobs there. And you can also work remotely. Like for me, the company I'm working with is in Austria. I live in Nigeria. I work for a company in Austria. The company I worked before, that one was in Texas. So I really like, you can find jobs maybe locally or remotely, like in different countries. And there are lots of platforms that are on a daily, like posting lots of jobs. We have Upwork, we work remotely, and a whole lot of them. Like you can always source out for job there, and then if you're good, by all means, you're going to get the job.
Okay. For a young girl trying to venture into tech, they feel they need so much to start the process. Can you like list the basic needs, you need, or the things you need to start if you're a beginner and you want to like start watching YouTube videos or taking tutorials online? What are the things you need to be able to succeed in that?
Okay, I think I would say you need one basic thing and others. The one basic thing which I really feel that you need is grit, right? Like you need to be ready to understand that you are venturing into a new career, you're venturing into a new path entirely that's going to be full of challenges, of loopholes, of potholes, and you're going to give up like a whole lot of times. I can't remember, like I can't count the number of times I've cried because I'm not getting something right. The number of times I really wanted to give up because like I felt this thing was not for me. So if you're not ready, like mentally ready, in as much as you need to be physically ready, but if you're not mentally ready, you're going to give up on the way. Like 2 months, 3 months tops, you'll be done, right? And sometimes you get to 1 year and there's no job. In fact, you're not even understanding what you're doing, right? And if you don't have that grit in you, if you don't have that willingness to move forward, to persevere, to be tenacious, to be persistent in what you're doing, you're definitely going to give up. So you need that one first in like in pursuing your goal. Then many other little things which I feel you need, like I just feel you need to like map out a particular portion of time that you need to give out each day, and you say, okay, for this particular time, for this number of hours a day, I'm going to devote myself to learning how to code. You also need to have like a good laptop, a functional laptop that can use to like run basic commands and like whatever you learn from let's say YouTube or any course you're following and run it. You also need electricity, obviously, to charge your laptop. You need access to internet because most of the courses or most of your solutions are going to be found online. Then you also need to know how to ask your questions and know how to see your answers when they are presenting it to you. One of the problems I had when I started was not really knowing how to ask my question, not asking people around me, and not even knowing how to ask on the internet or on Google. But if you're able to structure your questions properly, then you are able to get like the right answers that would suit you. So sometimes your answers like pop out, and you might not be able to like understand, okay, that answers might not be out there like directly, but you can apply what you see, like look at what you have been given online, apply it to your problem. So that's another thing, like being able to like apply whatever it is you might have heard from somewhere, or a particular residual knowledge you might have, or something you find online, like applying it to whatever you're doing at the moment. Then any other thing, yeah, if you have access to a mentor, I think they're also very important, because the importance of mentors cannot be overemphasized. Most times they guide, they like try to break down issues, try to break down problems so that they are more understandable to you. And most times they kind of shorten that learning path, like that very long learning path you might have had trying to learn on your own. If you had a mentor, have a mentor, they can like try to like shorten that whole journey. So I actually 100% recommend a mentor if you can find one. Yeah, I think those are the basic things that you need to start out. Yeah.
Okay, so this question is specifically for some people. You know, there are so many languages to learn on the internet. How do you like decide on the one you want to learn and the path you want to take, either as a full stack, back end, or front end, and other roles in tech? Like we have the DevOps, we have the data scientists, we have so many of them. So how do you narrow down to the path you want to take in this career?
Okay. So there are two things, right? I think before deciding on a language or deciding on a path you want to take, I think you need to understand. Sorry, I'm jotting down something. So I think you need to understand what interests you, right? What makes you happy. I have a friend, she has zero knowledge about backend, but she's always like happy when it comes to the front end. And when you see her designs, they're always very beautiful, they're always very nice, like very wonderful. Those are the things that interest her. When I bring my ID and ask her to, like, she hates anything back end, she hates anything she cannot see. But there are some people that they actually prefer the process, like breaking down logic, like handling the logic behind complex things. So you need to understand yourself, understand what are the things that like really make you happy. Would you be happy building out UIs for people to see, or would you be happy powering the logic behind these things? And then when you've been able to figure that out, you also need to, that also helps you like know where to channel your strength, right? So if you're more of someone that as you're building, you really want to be seeing what you're doing, you want to see like build beautiful things, you want to channel your strength towards probably the front end. And you're someone that loves logic, or you don't have strength to bother yourself about making beautiful UIs, making things responsive, you might want to channel your strength towards the back end. So another thing that really comes into play to decide where to go, you need to understand what all these things do, right? So you are going to the front end. What does being a front end engineer entail? You want to do back end. What does being a back end engineer entail? You want to be a DevOps engineer. What does it entail? What do they do? Why, like, if I go into this field, will I be happy? Why are they even doing this? Like, what problem does it really solve? I think you need to understand all those things. When you are able to understand all those things, then you can be able to like logically draw a conclusion and say, okay, I'm going towards this path, right? Then something else about languages. I think I moved to Java. Becoming a Java engineer was just a personal choice at that moment, right? Right now, I do more of Kotlin. So most times at the end of the day, it's not really about the language, but then yeah, it's not really about the language, but then you need to start out with something, right? So another thing that's important towards choosing a particular language, I think for those people in our kind of in our part of the world where we'd say like there are some languages that don't really sell so well, you might want to look at, okay, in my area in Nigeria, what are the languages that people like, when I learn it, like I can get a job, I can start out something within this particular time. Then you can be able to like pick up one or two things. So like, let's say in Nigeria, I can say, okay, what are the languages? You will find out that there are a lot into JavaScript, TypeScript, and a whole lot of, so you can decide to want to go towards JavaScript and TypeScript, and they'll not waste your time on, I don't know which language I'm going to use now that is not heavily used in Nigeria. I'm not bad mountain language, but just look at the area where you are and try to know the market, if I should say, yeah, know the market. What are the language that I use, what are the language that are like hotcakes there, and you can, if your strength aligns with learning such language, you can always go and like start learning that, right? At the end of the day, let's say you get a job and you are doing it, and let's say probably you made a mistake and you find out that there's another field that pays more, or there's another field which you like to be into. At the end of, since you already know like the basics or the fundamentals of the language, it's always easy to like pick up the next one. So you can always like pick up a language or switch to different language. At the beginning, it doesn't really matter what language you learn. You can just learn any one and then switch later on. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So my last question is this: if you're taking back to 10 years ago, is there anything you would have done differently, or you would have still followed this path you took, going to the university before venturing into tech, or is there anything you would have done differently?
Yeah, I think what I probably would have done differently was rather than like jump, because going into the university, I kind of took the first course that came out and like just wanted to go to school, right? So rather than doing that, I would have actually seek or sought for clarity on what I really wanted to do and what could like give me the happiness, because I ended up doing that course for like 4 years and I didn't find the peace, or yeah, I didn't find the peace that I really wanted, or I didn't find the fulfillment that I really wanted after going to school. And I was willing to go back to go study one or two other things to make up for it and see if I could find that thing I was searching for. I ended up not going back, but somehow I found it in another field. So one thing I would have done was to like be sure of what I wanted to study while I was studying it, and like before heading into it. Then in my career, I would say one thing that I would always advise people, which is a mistake that I made, is I think learning to ask questions, like be unapologetic, be unashamed of asking any question, no matter how stupid it might be, right? Somehow at the point in my career, I got to like I was like ashamed of asking my questions. Rather than ask questions, I kind of pretended that I knew them. And most times I would tell myself, I'll go back to go read this thing on my own and I'll understand it better. But somehow time doesn't really wait for man. Sometimes I get back to read them on my own. Sometimes I end up not reading them and I never get to know what all those things meant, right? So I would say if you have an issue, rather than spend hours, rather than spend days wasting time, like if you've tried it honestly on your own for a couple of minutes, for a couple of hours, and you can't resolve it, if you have someone you can talk to, it doesn't really matter like age. Like if you have someone you can ask the question, always ask your question and move on. Like that's one thing that I know I really made a mistake with. Like if I could go back to my like to the beginning of my tech journey, like I would ask a whole lot of questions, like anything I don't understand, I would ask. And then something else I think would be an advice for everybody is to make sure you get the fundamentals of whatever you're learning, like hold or grasp the fundamentals of whatever you're doing like very well. Because at the end of the day, when you like skip or go learn about frameworks and have a very shaky foundation or very shaky fundamental, it's going to affect you in the long run. Trust me. There's some things which I skipped like while learning that, because yeah, I skipped while learning that I'm going back now to read, because I'm finding out there's some concepts I see and really I don't really understand how is this thing going on this way. I might do it, but I don't understand the underlying thing, like how this works. And this just made me like I'm wasting, not really wasting though. I'm spending time now going back and starting from the beginning to make sure I understand my fundamentals.
But is there anything you would like to say conclusively?
Yeah, so you said the major things. I think those two things I said I spoke about if I could change in my career. I think those are like the major advices I could give. Then one major thing I can tell people, those getting into tech, those that are already in tech, never give up, right? Like always fight for what you want, always fight for what you believe in, never give up. The journey is not like it's not very easy. It's a very difficult one, but then it gets easy with time. That's just the truth. Like it's not always the same way as it was when you were starting. So be willing to fight for what you believe in, what you want, and you're going to be happy at the end of the day. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. This has been a very inspiring story, and I'm sure that our viewers will pick one or two things from it. And I would encourage them to leave a question in the comment section. If there's anyone that I feel you may be of better help to, I will draw your attention to it. Thank you very much, Francisca, for your time. We really appreciate it. I'm sure we'll ask you to come back to this, maybe for a different topic or to elaborate more on what you've just discussed. But thank you for coming, and I hope to see you around. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.